Hello, everybody. My name is Marissa Rosas, and you're listening to Redacted After Hours. Now, have any of you heard the phrase dance like nobody's watching? Well, one woman did and started an epidemic. You may be a little confused now, but luckily for you, our first episode together is about the Dancing Plague of 1518, which is known as one of the weirdest epidemics in world history. We'll discuss what happened during this event, as well as multiple theories regarding why it happened. Now, I have been obsessed with this historical event for years now, and I was lucky enough to find and obtain research from John Waller, a novelist who wrote 2 books about this epidemic. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin, shall we? To first discuss the plague, we need to go back to the town of Strasbourg, which was located in the Holy Roman Empire. In July of 1518, in the scorching summer heat, a woman decided to leave her house and go into the streets, and begins to dance. Except she does not stop. Not voluntarily, at least. A week later, the woman dies of heat exhaustion and fatigue. But within that week, dozens of citizens joined the woman and danced with her. The rich council members of Strasbourg weren't amused and called doctors to the town to determine the cause of the dancing. Because it was 1518, the doctors didn't have a concrete reason, but eventually they determined it was because the citizens' blood was overheating and going to their brains, causing them to dance. Now, because of this diagnosis, the council thought more dancing would fix the problem and set up multiple fairs and stages across the town so they could shake out their sickness. In fact, they hired musicians to play at these fairs and even hired strong men to hold up the dancers and keep them from falling. In the city archives from Strasbourg, it states, "In their madness, people kept up their dancing until they fell unconscious and many died." So as more people begin to pass out from exhaustion and drop dead, the council realizes that they've made a mistake and that the doctors were wrong. Their determination? It must be for religious reasons. So the dancers were taken to a shrine of Saint Vitus. Red shoes were put onto their bloodied feet and they were guided around a wooden statue of their saint. Surprisingly, in the following weeks, the dancing ceased. So, why did this happen? The first speculation of why the dancing plague happened is that it was caused by ergotism. Now, ergotism is when a species of mold infects damp rye, and whoever eats it is given symptoms that are very similar to LSD. Victims of this are known to have fearful hallucinations and violent movements and spasms. Although this is unlikely, because if it was due to ergotism, they wouldn't have danced for days and weeks on end. Moving on, the second theory is that the dancing plague was caused by religious subversion. Subversives are people who want to overthrow a certain system in place. The theory was that the dancers were protesting and wanted to overthrow the religious system in Strasbourg. This was soon deemed as extremely unlikely, since the dancers were in agony, and it was said that they clearly didn't want to continue dancing. The third and final theory is that the dancing plague of 1518 was caused by mass hysteria. Mass hysteria, or mass psychogenic illness, is described as when a group of people will begin feeling ill when there is no physical or environmental reason for them to be feeling ill. There are other cases of dancing outbreaks throughout the centuries, ranging from a small group of people to hundreds. Most of these outbreaks were found to be in towns near the River Rhine, which is where merchants and pilgrims travel, as well as news and beliefs. Citizens in this region believed that Saint Vitus could punish sinners by forcing them to dance, which inflicted fear in people. Beliefs like this can cause people to act as if they're spiritually possessed, which means that a soul or deity has taken over their body. This would result in the inflicted acting like their idea of a possessed person. Due to the citizens being raised in an extreme religious environment, where they are taught to obsess over sin, they could enter dissociative mental states and turn off their normal consciousness. Once one person acts possessed due to the fear of sins, witnesses will follow suit due to their same fears. Examples of this are all across history, one being that a convent of nuns started meowing and wouldn't stop until they were whipped and beaten by soldiers in the city. In order to connect the dancing plague to the theory of mass hysteria, we first have to look at the year before it even took place. Now, Strasbourg had a bad year when it came to crops, diseases, and the overflowing of orphanages and hospitals. Hypothetically, they could have believed that they were being punished by St. Vitus and thus inflicting the fear and stress that is needed to cause a spiritual mass hysteria. The dancing plague of 1518 was arguably one of the most confusing epidemics in world history. Even though its reasoning is being debated to this day, we can assume that it was a case of mass hysteria. The fears and extreme religious beliefs could have been enough for the citizens to dance till they dropped dead. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining me, and again, I'm Marissa Rosas, and this has been Redacted After Hours.